Okay, so dear students, welcome back. So we are looking at IP law, HOE 6019, and we continue on with patent law. So I just thought I'll talk about a few more things before that. Number one, the first homework for trademarks. Yeah, it's 8 more days to go. So I hope you are on schedule with that and you haven't forgotten it. Homework two, I'll be putting that up, I guess, soon after the patent courses are over, because I want to talk a bit more about this patent stuff, and then the homework will comprise of drafting patent claims. So that will take some time. Number three, well, coronavirus is here, and it's not going anywhere. So we have to look up different options regarding the exams. Yeah, I hope you remember this is a course. You're in a university, you're students, and at the end of this course, we need to have an exam. So chances are, well, I don't think it will be a physical exam in a classroom where you can all sit down, together and do the exam. So we have to presume that this would be an online exam, and I'll work on that part and figure out some do's and don'ts. So it should not be a problem, but we have to choose exam dates. Yeah, so I'll set the ball rolling. I'll put some tentative exam dates out, and then let's see how that goes, if they are suitable for everybody. Yeah, and then we can have a discussion. Maybe I don't know. They have this chat forum here, other places they do, or whatever. So then we can look at some of these things and then discuss what is a suitable time frame. Now remember, these exams, the dates are, you have possibilities to do the exam twice. So that would be the first attempt and then the retake attempt. And you don't have to. I mean, if you get the first attempt good, then very good as well. But there'll be three exam dates. So I'm aiming for maybe one date in December, and then before the Christmas holidays, and then two in January. And then you can choose out of these three whichever two are suitable for you, and then you can come for the exam. All right. It's October, and I think it's about time we got this started out, because from the university side, we still don't know about exam possibilities in the classroom. So, where were we last time? Well, we were looking at lots of interesting drawings. I hope you remember these. So what else would be the situation regarding patents? Yeah, you could also have other types of patents. Patents don't always have to be very complicated. You could have something simplistic as well, but always, you need to remember that there are certain requirements, and three of them, which we'll talk about in more detail today. You fulfill those three and you are good to go. So what could be something that would be interesting? Well, time to draw another drawing. Yeah, so today we are going to look at the human eye. All right, it's a cross section of the human eye. So well, I guess it makes more sense now. Yeah, so that's the human eye, and then the connection goes from there to your little brain on top, and then you can see things. All right, so how does it work? Well, here's a candle, for example. Okay, and you see the candle. So what happens is you have these lights, rays, and they go like this, and then the candle gets inverted, and this is a special spot over here where it gets the image gets inverted, but it's there, and then of course you can see it. So these are light rays traveling. I'm sure you must have studied this in school. Yeah, so that's your pupil, your iris. Yeah, that's your whole eyeball, in a very simplistic way. So now what happens with myopia? Myopia like this. Oh, where are you? I can't see you, right? So what's happening here is because of the curvature of the lens, it sort of increases or decreases. And so based on that, you have a serious problem now. the image that is inverted and then focused on this particular area becomes blurred. Now what happens is, this is the inverted image and it goes to your brain where it gets returned, and so you can see the correct image again. So this is the right image, the real image, this is the inverted image, and then in your brain you can see again the correct image. So what do you have to do in this situation? Well, you just need these lenses. Yeah, so these would be your convex lenses. Yeah, so you put them, these are your specs, all right? And so they will, based on the curvature of the lens, refocus the lines, and then everything will work out fine. Yeah, that's how your specs work, or rather my specs work. So you can see this. Yeah, that's straightforward and simple. Now, of course, there are certain issues over here. Number one would be, well, there's a solution and you need there's a problem and you need a technical solution. So the problem is you don't have access to a doctor. Number two, the equipment like your specs and all these things are expensive. So let's say the frame costs like maybe 100, 200 euros, the frame, and then the lens, plastic or glass, they can cost a lot of money too, 45, 55, 90 euros each or whatever. So of course, this can be quite a problem if you are living in a community where you don't have access to ophthalmologist, the eye doctor, and you don't have money to buy all this stuff. So in that situation, what would you do? Well, you could end up becoming slowly blind because you can't afford this thing here. So the way around this would be, well, you have this frame, and now let's presume if this is the frame and this thing here, the lens, is made of a plastic balloon, so it's inflatable, and the liquid is here. So what you now need to do is you can adjust the liquid. So you put on this frame on your eyes and then on your face, and then you can adjust the liquid flow. It's hydraulics, and based on that you pump in more liquid into this plastic bag, which is inflatable to a certain degree. Then you can change the curvature of the bag. So let's say this is the normal bag, yeah, and this is the liquid component to it, and based on how much you pump into this bag, you can either increase the amount of liquid and so it bloats up, or you can reduce the amount of liquid and so it reduces. Yeah, you see what I'm trying to get over here. The point here is this could be an amazing instrument or device for people who don't have to now buy new frames or new glasses or go to a eye doctor or something. They can do this at home. So of course this would be a very cheap way to deal with a real problem, and the problem is people are losing their eyesight and they can't afford all these fancy goggles and specs, and so a cheap solution, which is an easy solution. You don't have to go to a doctor, you don't have to do anything. You just sit at home, you have this, and you can test yourself, and when you feel comfortable, you can stop pumping the liquid into your lens. And this could last for a lot more time than this. Okay, so of course the point here is it doesn't need to be rocket science. It can be a simple aspect as well, as long as you comply with all the three requirements, which we'll talk about soon. So, well, of course, certain things that you have to still be careful about, because as I explained to you last time, so the patent system works on the idea that, well, you have to be all open about yourself, and you have to reveal what your invention is all about, and based on that you get this certificate from the patent office, and so you have a monopoly, and now you can manufacture and do whatever based on your patent. And once that patent expires, then this becomes common knowledge. It goes to everybody in the world, and so everybody can now use your invention, yeah, and the information that you have given about it. So that was the simple part. Of course, nothing in life is simple. And as lawyers, remember, I always tell you rule number one, you need to learn to bend the law without breaking the law. Yeah. Rule number two, don't get caught, obviously. And rule number three, of course, if somebody goes to prison, make sure it's your client and not you. Yeah. So, based on this philosophy of life for a modern lawyer, now let's see what would be the situation. Well, let's look at a simplistic situation here, some example. I've always got this feedback that students really like my examples. I don't know why. I don't try to make them funny or something, but I guess they are self-explanatory sometimes. So what do we do here? We have a distillation process. All right. You know what is distillation? Well, do you remember it from school? Well, if you don't, now is your time. Okay. And okay. Let's see. So now this is your distillation process. What you have is this glass, this glass container which has this little snout at the end, and you have a condensation unit here. Basically, it is something which lets water go in from here and come out from here, cold water. And what that does is you have a liquid, you are heating it. As you reach the boiling point, the vapors are created. Remember, you have solid, you have liquid, and you have gas. So now this is becoming from liquid to gas. The gas flows over here because it has a cooling effect due to the condenser. What you end up with is the gas becoming now again a liquid. And so this is distillation. All right, a simple process. Now it can have certain uses, and well, sometimes these can be quite strange. Now I'm sure all of us know at least one crazy person who likes to make alcohol at home. Yeah, don't ask me why, but there are people. In fact, I knew one Swedish woman who had a Danish boyfriend, and then the Danish guy went to stay with her and her parents. So her mom was a doctor and in the medical school, and a teacher in the medical school, and her dad was, I don't know, the laboratory technician. And they used to have this big bottle of 100% alcohol in their basement, and the dad used to turn it into drinking alcohol. And of course the mom used to get this supply from the laboratory. Yeah, I don't know what happens in Sweden. Yeah. So anyway, this is how it will work, distillation process. So now let's say you have this liquid over here and it is alcohol. You're just not sure what type of alcohol. Now there are two types of alcohol. Of course, there are many types of alcohol. Alcohol basically is the OH group that is important. So one would be CH3OH, methyl alcohol. Yeah, these are hydrogen, all of them. Okay, 3 hydrogen, 1 carbon, and 1 oxygen. Hydrogen, that's the alcohol part. So that's methane, and then you have ethane. Yeah. Ethane, ethyl alcohol, has 2 carbon groups, 5 hydrogen, and OH. Now, why am I giving you this little lecture, impromptu lecture in chemistry? Because if you drink ethyl alcohol, yeah, that's very good. That will make you high, and will give you a nice hangover, and you'll feel maybe even good about things. 2020 will look like an amazing year after you have a few of these. Methyl alcohol, unfortunately, is not a good thing to drink. If you may have read in the news, somebody makes booze at home, and then 25 people die and 45 people become blind, and all that horrible stuff. That's methyl alcohol. So what is the gist of this particular example? So let's look at methyl alcohol. Methyl alcohol has a boiling point of 64 point, sorry, 64.7 degrees Celsius, and ethyl alcohol has a boiling point of okay, just a moment. Ethyl alcohol has a boiling point of 78.37 degrees Celsius. Now, these are the boiling points, and what that would mean is, let's say you get this liquid over here. Now it contains a lot of things, including alcohols. Now you don't know what alcohol is there. So you boil this, and when you reach 64 degrees and 64.7 degrees Celsius, this starts evaporating, and so you get the first drops in this container. Collect them and throw them out. Yeah, whatever you don't bring them. All right, and then you wait for the next turn, which would be 78 degrees. When this reaches 78 degrees, 78.37, then the next batch of vapors that are condensed would be ethyl alcohol. All right, and that's the one you drink and enjoy and invite your friends over. And so now, what is the relevance of this example here? Number one, I could make a patent application, and in that patent application, now theoretically, all right, this is just a silly example. I could mention that, oh, this is the process, and you do all of this, and you put the setup, and you do this, and distillation, and chemistry, and physics, and physical chemistry, and all of this happens, and then now you do this, and then you get ethyl alcohol. Hey presto, yeah, amazing. You just forget to mention this temperature part. That's the most important part. You have mentioned 99% of the invention. You have explained everything. You just left out that crucial 1%, which is the most important part over here. But you're just bending the law without breaking the law. You're not, you do have to do this in a very smart way, of course. So what happens? You do this, and you get Scotch whiskey every time, or cognac every time, and it's like, wow. Others do it, and they don't know this temperature part, and they try to drink what they are brewing, and they keep on getting sick all the time. So basically, that's your little secret now. Yeah. So of course, what you're doing here is you are revealing, but you're not revealing everything. You're not working hard. You're working smart. Of course, you need to have a good lawyer to do this. Yeah. This could get you in trouble if you get caught. So of course, now this is again a simplistic example, but this is what happens in all these patents that are drafted. The devil is in the details, and if you leave out a few things here or there, it could be an innocent mistake. And if you're lucky, you could get through, and your patent is now just not for 20 years, but maybe even more, because others still can't figure out what you're doing. So of course, it can be a very effective economic policy instrument, and it can encourage to make inventions, and it can help to collect information. So the patent database, the USPTO, or then the eSpace.net of the European Patent Office, they have like 40-70 million patent applications and patents that were granted from the last 100 odd years. That's a lot of information. Very often, if you want to do something, you don't have to, reinvent the wheel, figuratively speaking. You could just get access to the database and find out how this thing works. So an example of this would be, let's say this is your aeroplane. Okay. And yeah. Let's look at this. This is your aeroplane. It's got this propeller. It's got a wheel at the back, and now it's got this wheel over here, and so it can land, and then of course you can take off as well. And this could be a small aeroplane. It could be a gigantic Boeing, Airbus, whatever. Now all of these need to land, and when the plane lands, it's coming at a slow speed, but still it's a heavy plane, and so you're looking at a lot of forces of gravity and everything working on over here. So here is your plane coming into land. Yeah. So this is you coming back from your lovely holiday in Lisbon, and now your plane is landing down in, I don't know, Helsinki. They don't fly directly to Estonia, but they fly to Sweden or Norway or Finland also. So that's your Finnair flight, took off from Lisbon, coming to land at Helsinki, and now, well, of course, it needs to land, and so these would be the wheels on which it would land, and of course these have to take in a lot of pressure along with the nose wheel. Yeah, so this is up in the aeroplane body, and then it gets lowered down. So Boeing came up with an idea of how to reduce this shock wave by, this is your wheel, okay, and so you want to reduce the shock wave. Well, you could have a giant spring, which doesn't really help much, but you could have also hydraulic action over here. So what you have is, there are these two tubes and freely moving tube, the lower one and then the upper one, and of course the upper one has some liquid in it. Hydraulic, could be oil, could be whatever. And now this lower tube is self-moving, and so what happens is, to absorb the blows or the impact, you could have a situation where, you see this, it's hydraulic, right? This lower tube moved up, the liquid over here, the hydraulic oil got compressed, and because it's liquid, it has this amazing quality. It gets compressed and then it gets extended again. So you have this amazing way of absorbing shock, and that would be wonderful for a plane like this and the wheel of a plane. Much better than having a spring. All right. Now Boeing applied for a patent in the 1970s, and their patent application was rejected because somebody in the 1920s had already thought about this idea and had applied for a patent and had got a patent based on hydraulic technology of the 1920s. You see, the point here is, instead of doing all this R&D, research and development, if Boeing had just looked at all the previous records, it's all very systematically organized. So you can type in and say you want to look at, hydraulic buffer systems or recoil absorption systems for automobiles or aircraft or whatever, and you put in some keywords and you can get a lot of data, and that would really have helped Boeing. So you can see already how the system can be a win-win situation. And of course you can make a lot of money as well, but there are some problems sometimes, because horrible lawyers like me will tell you how to bend the law without breaking the law, and there could be also issues with this being very expensive, and a patent process can take a long time. So of course you have all of these issues. So what could be a problem with patents? Well, one of the problems, for example, could be that I'll give you this example of, I'll upload this as well. So this is a situation that comes up very often, and well, one example is of the coronavirus, vaccine that everybody is trying to create, and of course they will try to get a patent for it. Because this could be a huge money spinner. If everybody on this planet wants to get inoculation, some countries will do it for free for their people, others will charge. That's a lot of money. So how would this process work for a drug patent? Now this is just illustrative to explain to you how horrible the costs can be. They can be really massive. So number one, we are looking at a situation where you're developing a vaccine, and of course, you're not sure whether this will work out or not. But on the other hand, you also have to make sure legally everything is correct. So you have two processes working at the same time. One would be the patent application, and the other would be the research, development, and innovation. RDI and patent application. So remember, patent is from date of application, yeah, not date of grant or something. So let's say you apply today. Today is 26th October 2020. Your time starts from today. Whether it's been accepted or not doesn't matter. So 25th or 27th October, depending on whether it's a Sunday or whatever, or Saturday, 26th October 2040, your patent will expire. Yeah, so you apply 2020, 2040, your patent will expire. I'm sorry, everything looks mirror image, but yeah, use your imagination. All right, so this process starts. Once it starts, it can't stop. Maybe there'll be a hearing. We'll talk about this also in 2022, and then you go through the whole process, and maybe let's say by 2024 your patent is granted. Yeah, so you apply today, within 4 years, depending on how complicated your invention is. Sometimes inventions don't make sense. People don't understand what you're doing because you are like, wow, you are this person who thinks too far ahead. You are Elon Musk or something, you're the Tesla guy. People can't understand you. So of course it takes time to get sorted out. And so 2024, you get your patent that's granted for you. And so you now have tentatively 16 years to make money. Yeah. But you see, that's not how the process works, because 2024 you get the patent, then you set up a factory and you start the production line, and then you have these specialists, and then you start manufacturing, then marketing, advertising, all of that. That takes time. And with a pharmaceutical product, let's say like a vaccine, you need to have clinical trials, very important. First of all, you would test it on living organisms, just to see whether they can survive or not. Then you go to mammals. Mammals, why? Because we are also mammals. So mammals have a heart with 4 chambers. They are warm-blooded. They have this reproductive system in women. Female mammals, there's a uterus and all of that stuff. So then you would test with a rat first, a family of rats. Then you would look at rabbits. Then you would look at chimpanzees, primates, monkeys, apes. Why? Because you can't just start a clinical trial straight away on human beings, because all the humans may die. So instead you need to find out what could be the long-term reaction of this vaccine or this drug. And then of course this could also include a lot of trials. That's why you need rats, because rats reproduce a lot, rabbits reproduce a lot. So you can now test it on a rabbit, and then it has babies, and they have babies, and babies have babies, and babies have babies have babies. And so within a year you could have 16 generations from that rabbit family, starting from the first rabbit. And what you are now doing is you gave that drug to the rabbit, the great granddaddy, and now you can see the effect on different generations, whether the drug has an effect. Does it lead to mutations of the embryo or the genetic imbalances or whatever? So that's very important. Same goes with monkeys. Monkeys are biologically, genetically very similar to human beings. There's a slight difference, 2%, 1%, maybe a bit more, depending on you. The monkey is a monkey. But of course, so all of this has to be done. This is a very time-consuming process. And you need to do this, because if you don't do it, then you can have, unfortunately, some very serious consequences. And one of those consequences is, I'll be putting that up in Moodle as well. So this was a situation where things can go wrong, and there was a drug, thalidomide, and it was just supposed to be for pregnant women who have some sort of morning sickness or things like that. So a simple drug, simple ideas. They didn't test it properly. You're supposed to test these sort of medicines and drugs not just on animals but also on human beings, thin people, fat people, old people, young people, men, women, black woman, white woman, brown woman, Asian, Chinese, everybody. Yeah. And if you don't test it properly, it can have serious consequences. Like, for example, recently there's been a lot of debate about transsexual people. So let's say you're a woman, and now you have you know moved on, and after all these operations, now you are a man. Yeah, so you are transsexual, and you have transpired from one sex to the other. The problem here is, well, you can call yourself whatever you like to, but genetically, unfortunately, you're still a woman. Yeah. And this can have an impact when you take a drug, because now there's a difference between a 55 kilo man and a 55 kilo woman. Yeah, especially if the height is also different and muscular structure and everything is different. The point I'm trying to make here is, you need to have a lot of these clinical trials and tests done before you can be sure about the drug. And in the case of thalidomide, they did not do the test. They sort of short-circuited it. And in Western Europe, in the 1960s, this drug was readily available for pregnant women who had morning sickness. Now, that time, they didn't have CAT scan and all of these ultrasound and all these fancy things. So the first deformities in the children started being noticed when they were born, 9 months down the line. And a lot of children were born with missing limbs or very underdeveloped limbs. And this is a horrible situation. Basically, what they didn't realize was that this drug doesn't affect the mother, but it has a very, very serious effect on the genetic growth of the or the development of the embryo. Now this is, of course, a very horrible situation, because what you end up with now is, from a legal perspective, this is a horrible lawsuit situation. And these people have not died. These children grew up to become adults who are handicapped forever. So this company has been paying compensation ever since. Of course, they stopped the drug and things, but again, so when you look at the coronavirus vaccines that are being tested, it's not simple. It's not like you just take a drug and just consume it. It could be a drug with serious side effects. So like, for example, there was this one drug invented for elephantiasis, and it's the situation where you get this horrible infection, and the worms in your body that are injected in by this parasite, they sort of create this reaction, this horrible immune reaction, and then your foot or your limb or whatever becomes very swollen up. And so they invented this drug which could cure this disease by killing all the parasites and the worms, but the side effect was you can become blind. What the hell? You don't want to become cured by one disease and blind by the other. So coming back to this example here, you see the magic date is 2024. And if you're a pharmaceutical product manufacturer, not only you have to comply with all the legal parts to get the patenting done, but at the same time, you have to make sure that all your clinical trials, all your tests, all your lab reports, all your government approvals, everything are also done at the same time, so that by 2024, both sides are ready. And once that happens, then you can start manufacturing your device and advertising, marketing, and selling it. And then you have 16 years to get rich. Of course, most inventions become obsolete yesterday. Yeah, that's horrible, right? So you're running against a lot of things here. This can be super expensive. There are no guarantees. You could hit the jackpot, maybe, but don't be so sure about it, because this thing can go either way. All right, so as you can see this way, the patent system is not very simplistic. Another issue could be, let's say, sometimes you have to think out of your head. And now this is an example that it's not really true, but it's a very interesting example nonetheless. You know how your ballpoint pen works. Yeah, so this is your ballpoint pen design, and basically this is the refill, this is the ink, this is a ball over here which is freely moving, and when you press it against a piece of paper, the ball goes a bit up, some of the ink leaks out, and then you get it on the paper. Yeah, so that's how this would work. But you see, for this to work, you need gravity. All right. So the story goes that NASA tried to, make a pen that works in space, and this was crazy. This was not working out because in space you don't have gravity. If you don't have gravity, how the hell will this work? All right. So they tried all sorts of things, maybe compressing from the top. Yeah. So you have a mechanism for compressing it. You just need to make sure that when this ball from the ball point goes a bit up, when it's pressed down, then the ink flows out, and that will only happen in gravity unless you have some some artificial compression happening here. And NASA was not successful. I mean, remember, it's just a joke, all right? It's not entirely true. So NASA spent a lot of money, they couldn't figure it out, and then they said, these Soviet Union people, they have sent the first monkey in space, the first man in space, the first woman in space. What the hell did Yuri Gagarin do? I mean, didn't he use a pen or something? So one day this NASA scientist asked this Soviet scientist in a science conference, tell me, what do you guys do for writing? How do your astronauts write? I mean, how do you make these pens? These damn pens are so expensive in space. And the Soviet scientist said, well, we use a pencil. Why the hell would you use a pen in space? What's wrong with you? Of course, certain flaws in this. Number one, this pen is not exactly so expensive to make. Number two, you shouldn't use pens in space because that graphite, in the pen, in the pencil, that graphite it's metallic, and it can cause serious problems if it's floating around, small pieces like that. But let me not spoil the joke for you. Okay, so I hope we have looked at a lot of these examples and understood that there are pros and cons to everything. Nothing is straightforward and simple, but of course, if it works out, then really good. And so the patent system, well, I spent a few minutes, more than almost 40 minutes now, explaining to you with different examples what can be an invention. Remember, it has to be a solution, a technical solution to a problem. The problem could be whatever, and if you come up with a technical solution to it, like all these examples I gave you, then of course you can get a patent. And well, they all work. They are all perfect in themselves. Now the only issue here is, are they cost effective? Well, yeah, that's not what a patent worries about. The patent system only gives you protection if you come up with a technical solution to a problem. But what are the requirements for patenting? It's still not straightforward. Again, as I explained, the economics of a patent, it's not foolproof. So don't fool yourself into thinking that you just have to make one invention, get a patent for it, and you can become super rich. That stuff doesn't work anymore. Maybe it used to work 50 years ago, but now you need a lot of patents, look at things from a different viewpoint, and then hopefully get adequate protection. All right. So what are the requirements for patentability? Something which we'll talk about next time in more detail. Industrial applicability, novelty, and inventive step. Each one of this. 1 and 2 and 3, and of course there's a fourth issue, which is the patentable subject matter. So that has a lot of consequences with, for example, biochemistry, biotechnology, genetics, and things like that. So until next week, let's stop here for now, and we'll continue again later next week. So I hope you had a good time enjoying the lecture, and I'll upload the lecture note, the video lecture in Moodle, and we'll also talk about the exam dates and possibilities. All right. So have a nice day and have a nice week. Goodbye.